Okay, into qualified immunity, part two. Okay, and we never look straight forward. We always look around us, be able to protect ourselves by any means necessary. Anything I say or do is not legal advice. Do your own research. Okay, that's the disclosure. I'm not an attorney, people. All right, but I do appreciate some of them, especially when they're in honor and acting in good faith. Okay, uh, for a long time we didn't have these. Okay, I am led to believe and do believe that he is acting in honor and in good faith and challenging status quo, which is what we need. All right? We need to get our rights back. Bounce, bounce, bounce. All right, let's talk about how we can use these things. Now, the last one I talked to you about, the 1871, that's going to be the last one down. Okay? So when you write your notice or notice of liability, um, you want to take these steps, and then at the bottom, and you're led to believe that this is unconstitutional or however you want to write it, and this is why. Then you go to the other section, and this is why. Then you go to this section. You figure out what's missing in this, okay? And give this paper to your attorney if you get one, right? And tell them, well, not even tell them, order them to put this in your case. Okay, we want this to go up to the Supreme Courts. Okay, so the Supreme Courts can do this. Even though I'm led to believe and do believe that there's this thing as anything is unconstitutional is null and void. I don't think the Supreme Court actually can make that determination as well as because even at the lowest form of courts, okay, they have to recognize as null and void. They won't. All right, they play these stupid games. But the lower courts, if they was in honor and in good faith, we wouldn't need Supreme Court as often. We wouldn't need federal lawsuits as often because we would have the local judges acting in good faith and in honor. All right, and then when you do these things, not of law, okay, it's this is a law in writing in law. All right, so we need to do our clarification of words, not of law or this, that, here, and there. It's in writing, in law. All right.
18 the Congress in 1873 and 1874 decided we've got to do something about this. We've got to get all these laws that are all out there. We've got to organize all this stuff. And so they decided to organize everything into what was called the Revised Statutes of the United States, the first revised statutes of the United States. And that's where they took all.
Which I believe they done that right. But this goes into also as well the administrative section. All right. And the reason why I say laws before, right? Um, Congress created this law. But they kind of come in here and do a statute. Well, every time we turn around, there's been new rules, especially on the Second Amendment. This is the problem we have. They keep putting new rules in there that has not been clearly established by the legislatures and by the Constitution, by the way. Thou shalt not be infringed. That includes statutes. So anything is actually directly to the officers of what their Second Amendment rights, right? If they're saying they're not allowed to have machine guns, they're talking to themselves, not to the people. We're above the Constitution.
Of the statutes at large, everything that had been passed up to the point of 1873, 1874, and put them into one spot and organize them under titles, different types of titles. I'm going to give you an example of that. I'm going to show you here. This is kind of the statutes, the revised statutes they called them, the revised statutes of the United States. The first one, and this was done in 1874. And as you can see down here, let me get this a little bit bigger for you. So this is Title 24, and it's titled Civil Rights. So they took all the laws that had to do with civil rights, and they gave them new numbers, right? so you could go to one place and have civil rights statutes if you wanted to know what civil rights statutes. And then they gave them a new number. So what was the Civil Rights Act of 1871 became Title 24. Whoops. Oh my goodness. I just skipped. Okay. Became Title 24 Civil Rights Section 1979. Stop. What are you doing? See, I'd rather have my own computer. This is what happens when I'm on the road. So, and you can see right here where it says 20 April 1871 becomes Section 1979. And then you can read here, this is what was passed on April 20th, 1871. Every person who under color of law of any statute, ordinance, regulation, custom, or usage of any state or territory subjects or caused to be subjected, any citizen of the United States or other person within jurisdiction thereof, the deprivation, blah, blah, blah. Okay? But wait, is this the April 20th, 1871 law that was passed? And I thought, this looks pretty short. And if you remember, we'll go back to this. This is kind of a long paragraph, and I realize this is bigger, the font here, but I'm like, this just looks a lot thicker than what we were just looking at. And as you compare them, so then what I did was I printed this out, right? Printed this out. Then I printed this out right here, Section 1, and I compared them. And what you're going to notice here, this is what I can't do. But I want to pay some. This is what was passed, what you're looking at right now, on April 20th, 1871. This is what was passed by Congress. And what was passed by Congress includes the...
Now I'm going to pause right there right quick. What was passed in Congress in writing in law. Okay, this is in writing in law. That's the reason why I said we got to write this as true. Now you go and have the statutes, codes, rules, and regulations, which the statutes must, okay, comply with the law that's in writing in law. Cannot have missing words, cannot have extra words unless it's been revised by the legislatures.
16 words. Any such law, statute, ordinance, regulation, custom, or usage of the state to the contrary notwithstanding. I'm going to read this one more time. I want you to get this into your head. Think about this. Try to memorize it with me. Try to remember. Follow the bouncing ball. Keep this in your mind. This is the law that was passed in 1871. Passed by the House, passed by the Senate, signed into law by the President. Any such law, statute, ordinance, regulation, custom, or usage of the state to the contrary notwithstanding. Those 16 words right there. Any law, statute, ordinance, regulation, custom, or usage of the state to the contrary notwithstanding. What does that mean? What it means in everyday usage is you cannot claim a common law defense. That's what this means. There is no common law defense to this section of the Civil Rights Act. So if you violate someone's rights, they can sue you. And that's it. It doesn't matter what a law says. It doesn't matter what a statute says. It doesn't matter what an ordinance says. It doesn't matter what a regulation says. It doesn't matter what your immunity says or usage of the state, how things were done in the past. To the contrary, notwithstanding. Those things don't matter. That's what this means. These things do not matter. Okay? If you violate someone's rights, they can sue you. Don't go hiding behind a common law defense. Well, if you go back to here, remember those 16 words? Oh, stop it. Remember those 16 words? I want you to find, here, let me do this.
Listen up, y'all. We all know the migrants won't stop crossing our borders because they want free prepaid cards funded by our tax dollars. But what?
Come on. There we go. And let me minimize that a little bit. I'm going to put these side by side. Here we go. That's the original law. This, stop it. There we go. When the compilers, whoever was tasked with compiling all the laws into the first revised statutes of the United States, took this over here, the original law, and enacted it into the code, into section 1979. Now, here's the problem. These two aren't the same thing. There's words missing from section 1979 and 1874. What you will not find, and what does not exist, is a congressional act that amends section 1979 here. That amends section 1979 here. Essentially what amends the Civil Rights Act of 1871. We are missing.
Okay, so remember, they made a claim over here that it was this right here of the 1871. They made the claim because it's written over here, and then they codified it to 1979 saying, hey, this is the exact same thing, we just codified it. That's what they're claiming. But like you said, there's 16 words missing in here, which is in conflict with the law in writing that became in law. So that's my clarification on it. Again, go to his channel when you want my non-interruptions.
Where Congress said you don't get qualified immunity. Now keep in mind, qualified immunity didn't exist back then, but you don't get your common law defenses that you would traditionally have. We are saying people can sue you if you violate their rights. Stop violating their rights. Stop treating black people differently than white people. That's what this was about. That's what this law was about. And if you do violate their rights, don't think you're going to hide behind, oh, well, I'm the sovereign. You can't do that because it says right here, sorry, customs and usage of the states to the contrary don't matter, notwithstanding. This is the new law. You can be sued. So, so then what happened in the future? Let me turn this off again real quick.
Now, I'm going to interrupt again because we had to stop and think about this. So they kind of saying that not being sued and all this. So the Supreme Court used racist rulings in certain cases. Terry versus Ohio. Okay. It was a racist ruling, no matter how you guys look at it. And now I'm not a legal scholar or anything like that, nor claim to be. It's my opinion only. But the way it's reading is basically saying that, hey, we can suspend your Fourth Amendment rights. And due to the man and woman that was present at the time was a dark-skinned fella. Man. Okay? And for many, many years, it only applied to them. Now I extended out to the prison complex of creating profits and led into, light-skinned people. Okay? So you could take that with a grain of salt. That's what I'm led to believe and do believe. Okay? You guys can take your own concept of that. But I just want to do my clarification. When they did this, the Supreme Court actually started adding little dents into this. Okay? Pennsylvania versus Mims. Same principle. It was in a bad neighborhood. Well, in generally cases, what is usually in bad neighborhoods? Right? So, and this is not me doing a what you guys call a racist thing, because my definition of race is different than y'all's. It's between the light skin and the dark skin. Okay. Again, that was a racist ruling of my opinion. Okay, of what I'm led to believe and do believe by reading it. All right.
it was, so 1871 was the Civil Rights Act. And then in 74, they compiled all of these statutes at large, including the Civil Rights Act. And someone, we don't even know who, we don't know who was in charge of transcribing all these laws and organizing them by section. And so we don't even know what laws there might be even laws out there that do even more that we're unaware of because they were never transported over, unless you take the U.S. Code today and you take the revised statutes of yesterday and compare them to every single law passed by Congress since 1776, you are not going to probably be able to even understand that. I mean, you've got to think back then, people are literally in there transcribing every single law and compiling them into this on a typewriter, compiling these things onto a single document. There might be spelling errors and all that kind of stuff. And yes, there were, because there was a second revised statutes of the.
Okay, we're going to pause right here because I still want you to follow up a little bit more on this. And again, my yapping kind of extended it, which entails part 1, part 2, part 3, right? Again, when you want to just really sit down and listen to him directly, Texas 2A attorney C.J. Griffin. I don't know why I want to keep saying J. All right, and he's an attorney, so I'm not. Okay, he may have different understandings and operate in a different way than I would. Okay, but take it with a grain of salt of what I say. Okay, but remember this. Even with Terry versus Ohio, right? That 1871 still applied to that judge. It was not amended to bypass judges until 1997. Okay? All right, this is We the People News. Do a part 3 because we still want to tie up the 3 things that he was talking about. Till next time, bye y'all.